Welcome back, folks. Now over in Battle Creek, Nebraska, the Braves have been hard at work all season. But one Battle Creek Brave has taken the meaning of being a Battle Creek Brave to a whole nother level as he has overcome significant obstacles to reach his goals on the mat. SportsFource's Irvin Doman has more in this week's SportsFource Champion.
When Neil and Amy Kreikemeier were preparing for the birth of their son, they were met with an unexpected challenge.
It was during one of the ultrasounds we found out, and it took us a little bit to get used to.
They discovered that their son Nick had congenital hand and foot difference, meaning parts of his limbs would not form as expected. In that moment, they came together and decided they were going to raise the best son they could.
It's something that we were chose to do, we felt, so we knew it was going to be a long road, but we felt we could do it and raise a good kid.
Nick grew up with a love for wrestling, but decided to take a break in 6th grade. He started wrestling again in junior high, and now he's a freshman at Battle Creek High School in Nebraska, where he is breaking barriers and finding success on the wrestling mat.
After that break in 6th grade, I think I just thought, I'm going to learn how to do this, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to keep pushing and pushing until I can figure it out.
Now that he's in his freshman year of high school, it's a bigger stage, and the first tournament was very cool. He met up with some kids that were close to his ability, and he was able to do really well.
Nick will be the first to tell you that there were struggles early in his life when it came to dealing with his condition.
It was always really tough for me when I was younger because people always wanted, people wanted me to try to do it a certain way, like they wanted to help me as much as they could. I always wanted just to be the same as everybody else.
As he got older and more mature, he still pushes his boundaries, but has become more accepting of help.
I just kept pushing on, I kept trying, I kept doing everything I could, but obviously there were some things I couldn't do, and I've accepted that now.
But there is one thing that Nick Kreikemeier absolutely can do, and that is inspire anyone who has the ability to watch him compete and overcome every day.
It's hard, yes, but there's always an opportunity. There's always, you can try it and keep pushing, and there's always a chance to do it. You can. I believe that there's a way to do it. You just have to figure out your own way to do it.
For Nick's parents, having a son who is a freshman in high school who can inspire so many and do it so humbly makes them believe they have completed their goal of raising a good kid.
His mom and I are really proud of that.
Irvin Doman, KTIV SportsFource.